Hey everyone, Ryan here, Rhino411, Rhino Racing, back with another video update. I have to say I'm sorry there's been such a delay between my last video and this video. I know I said that I'd try to keep these videos a bit more regular, but things have been a bit crazy between my last video, preseason testing, and the first race weekend of my season. So we'll just jump right into it. We'll start out with preseason testing, which started out at Barber Motorsports Park. And we'll say the theme of my preseason testing was new, pretty much new everything. So new track for me, which is Barber Motorsports Park. Everyone I've mentioned Barber to in the past, they just say, gotta get to Barber. Barber's the best track ever. Barber's so awesome, you gotta ride Barber. So I got my butt down to Barber. It was around the end of March when I went down there. And the other new thing we had on this trip to Barber, so we had that new track, new bike, new gear, and new tires. So as I said, new track being Barber, new bike as in my new R6. Now some of you may know I did ride the bike briefly at the end of last season, but in the off season, great guys over at Turn 1 Racing, Joe and Wyatt and Blake and everyone went through the bike for me. They tore it all the way down to the frame, refreshed the chassis, refreshed the suspension, refreshed the motor. So it's pretty much an all new motorcycle. And it's going to be on new tires for me, which is the Bridgestone VO2 slicks, because previously all I ran was the R11 DOT race tires from Bridgestone. They're very similar tires, but still a little bit different setup wise, and also being on a new bike, it definitely takes some getting used to for me, so that was going to be a new thing to learn. And then lastly, I add a bunch of new gear to try out, because as many of you know, I do some work for Road Dirt, which is a motorcycle publication, and through that, I was able to have the opportunity to test out some REV'IT gear for this season for the racetrack. But look at that. Oh boy, I'm so excited. So I had a new suit, a couple new pairs of gloves, and then also I had a new pair of Forma boots. Now they aren't a new model or anything, but they were a brand new pair, so I was breaking those in. But have to give a shout out to my man Rob over at Road Dirt, and also to Matthew over at REV'IT for the opportunity to try out that gear. I will have a link in the description below if in case you're interested in reading my updates that I have for the gear, because I'll be doing some testing throughout the season. Now, like I said, a lot of newness being thrown my way. And I will say after being at Barber, I definitely underestimated how much all the new things being thrown at me were going to be kind of difficult to overcome and to learn all at once. Not to mention the fact that I had a lot of rust from the off season that I was trying to kick off because I hadn't ridden in several months. So the track itself was great. I will say my first impressions of the track, as it seems with any track, TV does not do that track justice. Way more elevation than I realized, even though I was prepared for it to be more than I'd seen on TV or in videos. Lots of elevation, and the track is just super wide. I did not prepare for how, I was not ready to see how wide that track was. Like, it reminded me a lot of RoadAmerica. I remember rolling out of the pit lane on my first lap out, and you come into turn 2 and 3, which is the carousel turn, and I felt like I was in the Coliseum. Like, I felt like I was in this bowl, big wide track, like valley walls kind of surrounding me. I just remember thinking Coliseum when I went out there. So that was definitely a lot to take in, but it was really cool. So between that and the bike and everything else, had a lot to learn. But overall, I gotta say, the weekend went really well. Even though I did end up shy of my goal, I set a goal for myself, like I feel like I need to for each time I go to a new track, especially for a lap time, and that was to hit a 1:35. So it's not overly fast, but I thought it'd be a kind of a conservative place to start, seeing as all the things I had to go through and all the new things and rust and everything, all the other racer excuses I can think of. But either way, I ended up a little shy of that goal. I ended up with a best lap of like a 37.5. But I will say, I did that in my last session of the day, of the weekend for me. And I wish I'd gone out for one more session, because we did have one more. And the reason I say that is because I was dropping 4/10, 5/10 a lap when I went and hit that time. So I think if I would have went back out, I would have easily been in the 36s, maybe even hit those 35s I was aiming for. And after the first day, I'll be honest, I wasn't even sure if I was gonna get into the 30s. Like, it was taking me a lot to learn the track and taking everything else. But I really stuck with it, and I wasn't sure, like I said. At the end of the first day, I was in the 40s. I'm like, am I even gonna get into the 30s? But the next day I went out and I ended up starting my day 2 at the same lap times I ended day 1 on, so that was a good start. And I just kept grinding, kept pushing, kept working at it, and I ended up pretty close to my goal overall. So I was satisfied with that. The one thing I will say about new bike, new gear, and all of that is it all felt really good. And what I mean by that is I was able to just really concentrate on figuring out the track, you know, gearing, lines, everything else. I didn't feel like anything on the bike was hindering me. Like, I didn't feel like anything was appallingly bad where I need to change this and it's keeping me from getting faster. The thing that was keeping me from getting faster was me, and just learning the track and getting used to everything and figuring it all out. So high marks to Joe. He did a really nice job with the baseline setup, I feel. Now, I will know more once I get back to tracks that I know, but overall, things felt really good. I'm sure as I start to push more, there'll be some adjustments we have to make, but overall, felt really good. And I've got to say, even though I was short of my goal, I left Barber with a lot of confidence because I felt like I could see all that time that I wanted to gain and more. I didn't feel like, man, how am I ever going to go quicker on this bike? There's no way I'm going to be able to do this. The SV was so much easier. Why can't I go any quicker? Like, I can see the potential there. The potential's there on the bike. It's just me getting up to speed. So, preseason testing went well. It was fun to get to a new track. And the first race weekend of our season for our region was at Autobahn in Joliet, and I decided to skip that round. And I'm glad I did because there was a bit of cold weather that rolled in. So, quick cut to that video clip of that snow. Yes, I said snow.
400 thunder bikes and other lightweight boxes. This is your third call. Route 3.
And that is why I chose not to race that weekend, and I'm really glad I didn't. So the first race weekend for me then was going to be at Pitt Race, which is another new track for me. And I've got to say I really enjoyed that track, but the weekend didn't quite go to plan. So we got out there and we discovered that one of the threads in the head for the spark plugs was stripped. The way we found that out was I kind of messed up on getting the bike started in the morning, so the tune I have on the bike makes it a little finicky to start when it's cold. So sometimes you have to spray some starter fluid into the intake to get the bike to fire up in the morning. And I found out later that the stuff I was using isn't the greatest, and there's not actually water in it, but I'm gonna say it's more watered down than others. But I didn't know that at the time. So basically what happened was I ended up fouling out the plugs. We went to change them out, and when we changed them out, we found out that one of the threads was stripping in for one of the spark plugs. Now when I say we changed it out, I mean Joe and Wyatt from Turn 1 changed it out, because we were trying to make sure I mitigated my loss of track time because I was missing sessions to get this all fixed. And it was just gonna be quicker and easier for them to do it because I hadn't done it all before. Plus I was able to watch them do it so I could learn. Moving forward, I'll be doing it myself, but it was just gonna be quicker for them to do it for me. And basically we could get the spark plug pretty tight, but not torqued to where it should be. So we were basically kind of taking a gamble to see if is it gonna hold. And I did my first practice session, it held, and then about 2/3 of the way through my next session is when it popped out. And I didn't want to try and do any jerry-rigging of trying to just make it work for one weekend. So just called it a weekend, only got 2 sessions in. But I've got to say, similar to Barber, I still came out of the weekend with a lot of confidence, even though I didn't get to do what I originally wanted to do, which would be to obviously race and see where I could end up lap time-wise. And the reason I say it is because I just had a lot of confidence mentally, like on the bike. And I could see that there were others that were struggling a bit more. And these were people who know their bikes really well and had made it out for all the sessions, because my first session of the day was actually the 3rd total session. So there were people, everyone else already had several sessions on the track before I got out there. When I say several, I mean 2. But by the second session, I was already catching some people, and I was just feeling really good on the bike. I was flowing really well, and I could feel that I was going to just keep knocking off time and picking up my pace. Now that being said, my quickest time before the spark plug popped was like a 1:58. So nothing fast, nothing to write home about. You know, if you want to be on the sharp end of the expert field in middleweight there, you need to be running high 40s at least. So obviously not a quick lap time, but like I said, there were people running slower than that pace who'd been out there all morning doing all the sessions on bikes that they know. So yes, I didn't get to race like I wanted to, but I still left that weekend with a lot of confidence in the bike, but more importantly in myself. To where I know, like I said, there's going to be some adjustments I'm going to need to make to the bike and some adjustments to how I ride the bike, but I feel like I can do it. Like I said, I can see all that time and I can see all that potential. I don't feel like I'm overwhelmed I'm hitting this mental block of how am I ever going to ride this bike fast? How am I going to ride it to that pace where I need to go? I feel and I see that I can do it. It's really just going to come down to me, and it's just going to come down to seat time and getting used to the bike and the power delivery and handling and how to ride this bike, because it's different than the SV, but personally I feel like I'm adapting to it pretty well so far, even though I've had very limited time. I am really curious to see how I do once I get some solid time in at tracks that I know, just so I can have that base and see if there's some adjustments I need to make, but overall I feel really good. You know, again, similar to Barber, when I was at Pitt, I didn't feel like there was anything off the bat where I need to change this on the bike because I just can't ride it. So it feels really good that even though, like I said, only did those couple sessions, but I still felt really good, and coming out of it with even just that limited time, I think bodes well. I also got to say for Pitt as a track itself, it's got to be my new favorite track. And even though I only did those 2 sessions, I feel confident saying that. So I think that says a lot to that track. So if you haven't gotten out to Pitt, I highly suggest you ride it. It's a really fun track. Facilities are really nice. Not a big fan of the Indiana-Ohio turnpike I had to go through and all the tolls, but you know what, it was worth it. Even though I only got those 2 sections in. But with that being said, next up, I'll be actually at RoadAmerica, so a track I know pretty well, for a couple track days, and the track's been freshly repaved, so that'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've heard some mixed things about how the track surface is currently, so I'm curious to see how that feels on the bike. But like I said, I'll have the R6 back for that, so I'm really excited to get back on it, especially on like a bigger track and being a little higher horsepower bike than my SV, and when I say a little, I mean a lot. So that's where we are right now. So we'll have those track days, and then we'll have hopefully my first full race weekend, which is going to be at Blackhawk, so a track that I know. So I'm looking forward to getting out there and seeing what I can do. I am bummed I didn't get that new first racetrack experience with all my friends in the Midwest region. We all got to kind of learn it together. So I guess I'll just have to go back next year with anyone else who didn't make it, or with those that did make it. But I'm looking forward to getting back out there. Like, I wish I could go back out there right now. So that's where we are right now. Preseason testing, first race weekend. Like I said, didn't go exactly as planned, but I still think they went really well. And I do have to give a quick shout out to Joe and Wyatt, Blake, everyone over at Turn 1 Racing for all the work they put in this off season. All the questions that I've had, they've been really helpful in answering, and so I gotta thank them for that and for all the questions I'll continue to ask. And as always, I have to really thank all my sponsors and partners for all their support. Really means a lot to me. Really excited to see what I can do to represent all of you for this season, and looking forward to more. Also, if you're interested in partnering with me for this season as I make that journey and that step into professional racing, into MotoAmerica for next season, please contact me and let me know. Always looking to partner with good brands and do whatever I can for them and find a mutually beneficial relationship. So please let me know. As always, with the YouTube thing and the video thing, please give the video a like, leave me a comment, question, anything you want to know, anything you want to see, and I will definitely get back to you. And if you choose, please subscribe to the channel. I love doing videos like this. Again, I will try to make it more regular that I'm doing these videos, and I apologize there's been such a delay. But looking forward to more. I appreciate you checking out the video, So stay tuned. Thank you.